Welcome, everyone. We are so excited today. I am Robin Binkley, and I'm here with my business partner, Courtney Moeller, and a very incredible guest that we have today. We have Laura Pamatian today with us. I want to share with you a little bit about her, but first, we are Ladies Kicking Assets. I forgot to say that.
We are.
I forgot to say we are.
Yeah, you are.
In the assets. And so we are here empowering women with the financial education that they need to live the life that they choose. And this is about action and it's about doing. We are not financial experts. We are all business women who are engaged in different levels of real estate and investing and business. And so we want to share with you some information and kind of give you some information into this amazing space of blockchain. So I want to welcome you, Laura, and just share a couple of things about you. You have 20 years of experience in domestic and international marketing and sales and resorts and vertical real estate development. When I heard that, I thought, wow, that's a lot right there. But you're currently an advisor on the AI blockchain technology company and the development of their learning sales matching platforms. You're a board member of the Foundation for International Blockchain and Real Estate. You're a member of the Florida Blockchain Group and an advocate against child trafficking. So I am so thrilled that you're here with Courtney and I today. I cannot wait to hear about your journey and how you're going to inspire us all. So
Thank
welcome.
you so much. I am just thrilled. Gosh, I heard all of that and I thought, wow, I'm so old.
I listened to all that and thought, dang, I need to take a nap now. That's freaking
amazing. You are not old, that's for sure.
I'm so amazing. Like, wow,
you are amazing.
Put it all together like that.
You are super amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, 20 years. My gosh. Luxury and resort real estate. I was very fortunate. I started my career on the island of Maui, which was spectacular in itself. And I niched into luxury pre-construction hotel branded real estate. So Ritz-Carlton Residences, Mandarin Oriental, Auberge, Fairmont. I ended up in the Caribbean on several projects, which was it was just as amazing, right? I mean, being able to travel around and be in different markets and see different perspectives of real estate was so fun. And living the island life was amazing. I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better career for sure.
Oh, amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I know you're in Florida now. And okay, so you said your career started in Maui. So what made you, switch from Maui to Florida?
Yeah, so I actually took a job in the Caribbean on a project there, and that's what kind of brought me back to the East Coast. I ended up down this way, and long story short, found myself in South Florida. My family's here on the East Coast, and it's just good timing for me to be here instead of a 10-hour flight, 2-day travel being away. Yeah.
Well, no, that's a beating. That is such a beating. And so I actually had somebody ask me the other day, they were like, how would you like to have spa services on flights? And I said, yes, sign me up for that. Let me know when that's coming out.
Yeah. I would just be happy with a bigger seat. I mean, that would be thrilling.
Right. Yeah.
Well, some leg room.
No, girl, no doubt.
Flights on time.
Yeah. Or that.
Let's get real basic.
Right. Well, okay. So you're involved in so many aspects of real estate. What led you into real estate to begin with?
Being on Maui, I was actually a personal trainer for a long time before that. And going out to Maui and being a personal trainer was not really ideal. It was, everyone's outside and they're active and they're living this amazing lifestyle and they're surfing and hiking and biking. And I mean, fitness was fun and I love it and I still love it to this day. But the real estate industry at the time, I mean, this was a very long time ago, was ideal. And being on Maui and selling resort real estate, I mean, what a dream. It was amazing.
Yeah.
When you say resort real estate, is that like timeshares with Hilton, or what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, so resort products. So there's on Maui, pretty much everything is luxury, right? So
Sure.
in the resorts, and there's several resorts on the island of Maui, and there's real estate product, general real estate product, and there's also timeshare product there. But I was in general brokerage, so we would sell condominiums, and those condominiums could be rented out while while the owners were back on the mainland. And so a lot of investment real estate, second home, third home, fourth home product. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very popular. Well, I mean, that's still very popular.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that really
Well,
is.
yeah, and now people are buying that and rolling it into like Airbnb and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. I know there's some places that have restrictions on what you can and can't do, but it's definitely just grown in popularity for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, well, okay. So now you are in Florida and, Robin's reading out all these accolades. I was so fortunate to meet you at the, Michael's Blockchain Real Estate Summit here recently in Austin. And first of all, I was super
I'm
excited that
sorry I
there.
didn't get to meet you. I was
Oh
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
because Robin
I
was there
didn't.
too.
Yeah, I
Well,
was.
first of all, there's not a lot of women in the blockchain space to begin with. So,
Mhm.
so when I found out that you were going to be there, I was really excited to meet you. And then when I did get to meet you and find out all of these things you were doing, I just was totally blown away. And so I really would like to kind of dig in. So you're doing all this real estate, and how did you go down the blockchain avenue? Like, what led you to that space?
Oh my gosh. So it kind of happened around COVID. I was, after 12 projects, I was actually offered a really beautiful project in Nashville. It's a Four Seasons, and I was going to go out there and work on that project. And they called me and said, we shut the building down because of COVID, and it's going to be a while. And I thought, yeah, it's probably going to be a long while. So I had some time like everyone else, and I decided to learn about what was happening in the space. I also advocate against child trafficking, as you mentioned. And when I was on a legislation call one day, someone had mentioned the topic of blockchain and how AI was impacting the industry and how they were making advancements and et cetera. So I thought, oh, wow, blockchain. And I was familiar with it, right? I was one of those in 2009 that didn't capitalize on the opportunity of
Mhm.
Bitcoin. But nonetheless, I decided to do some more exploring. And I realized very quickly, right, down this massive rabbit hole. And you can imagine all the time I had on my hands, right? I mean, I was on like YouTube and podcasts and down this rabbit hole of
That was
like
me too, girl. Yes.
was everywhere, DeFi and everything that was happening in the space. So I thought, okay, let's refocus, right? I know and understand real estate. So how is this technology applying to real estate? And when I opened that door and what I saw, I was just like blown away. I thought there is no way this is not going to be highly disruptive and we're going to get significant traction. And that's exactly what has happened. And I decided in that moment, I'm going to pivot. And I thought, well, why not just stick to what I know and
Mhm.
stay in the lane, right? Stay in
Mhm.
your lane, Laura. So that's what I did.
Mhm.
And I decided to help others, right? Other owners, developers, commercial property owners, syndicators, those that are in the real estate space to help them create and launch and utilize blockchain technology for security token offerings or tokenizing existing assets um, and that's kind of what it's been. We've got, I mean, as you know, Courtney, I mean, tremendous traction in tokenization, tremendous.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, tokenization and blockchain are such huge, buzzwords right now. So, I mean, just huge. And I can remember being at the Digital Assets and Securities Conference in Austin. I think it was September of last year, and just thinking, these people are going to be kind of paving the way, in this industry, and this, where real estate meets, technology and blockchain, and what that looks like. It makes me think of what it must have been like back at the earlier days of Bitcoin. You've got a guy talking to an empty room, and we had more people there than an empty room, but it was probably 100 people, which is really not that much compared to a regular real estate conference.
Mhm.
And it's grown so much even in this last year. So tell me, okay, so you are kind of merging that. Tell me exactly what your product looks like. Well, like what does it do?
Yeah, so we basically what I do is we're advising, right? We're an advisory firm. So we're not a technology platform. We're not a
Right.
legal team. We're not financial advisors, right? All of those things, we don't actually raise the capital. When it comes to a security token offering and raising the capital, as you know, it's pretty traditional. Putting all of those pieces together and helping those to understand what that actually means is really what I do. So someone's raising capital and they want to, benefit from the advantages of tokenization, then I come in and I teach them and show them how it works and show them how it's a win-win, right? It's a win for the investors, a win for you as the owner. And how do you not get massive traction when everyone's winning? So, I mean, it's just ideal. It's really ideal.
No, and you talk about disruptive technology, and it's really going to be disruptive across every industry across the board. I always sit and think, I can remember being in a room, a year ago talking to people about how it's going to disrupt, title companies and title insurance, and what it will look like when our property's information is stored on the blockchain and it can be accessed 24 hours a day, and we don't have to wait for the courthouse, and we don't have to wait for all of these things, and we're not repaying for title insurance over and over again. And so what are some of the ways that you see it being disruptive in the real estate industry?
I mean, just what you said, right? All of those things and then some, right? I mean, just being able to, just if you think about NFT technology, right? And tokenization, we say tokenization, and there's so many different types of tokenization, and people still need to learn what that means and what the differences are, right? NFT for the transfer of whole product, right? The entire house, the entire commercial building, that's unique, right? That can be an NFT. And the sequencing of the transaction now is just turned on its head, right? I mean, we're going through that sequencing that typically takes 30, 60 days, whatever that might be. And now, all of the due diligence is done before the commitment of the sale, right? And there isn't going to be any more, let me just lock up this property for 2 weeks or 45 days or whatever it is, right? It's going to be, here's all the information you need to know. Here's all of the documentation, do your due diligence. And when you're ready to buy, you and everyone else who wants the opportunity can see exactly the same thing and go through the same thing at the same time. And then you decide, do you want to buy it or not, right? And that's a big, huge difference, huge change.
Huge. Wow.
Yeah. And that's just one thing, right? That's just one aspect. Obviously, when you're talking about raising capital for a new real estate project, that's a whole nother thing. And doing that compliantly with the SEC, I think, one thing I think is really, really, really important. Obviously, it's education, right? But it's really the education of separating that cryptocurrency is not blockchain, right? And blockchain is not cryptocurrency. And being able to get that out to the masses and them understand the difference between the two is really where we're going to start to see massive change and adoption, I think.
No, 100%, because as soon as we start talking about tokenization, people tie everything to crypto and the volatility, and they're like, what is that going to look like? And I was actually on a call with Mauricio. Mauricio Raould is he is one of my attorneys he's my syndication attorney. And I don't know if you got to meet him at the blockchain summit.
I did. He's great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is fantastic. So we were on a call talking about tokenization the other day, and he was like, what people need to understand is that cryptocurrency is just one thing that you can do on blockchain. And I thought, oh, that's such a great way of looking at that, because I've spent so much time, Robin and I actually have not dove into tokenization or blockchain or anything on our calls. So you are our very first
our
guest that we've
first.
had.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and
Courtney, you're the expert in this, so I appreciate the opportunity.
No, well, I love listening to other people's
Mhm.
perspectives and everything else, but that is definitely one of the biggest barriers we have right now is that educational piece and, helping people to understand the difference in blockchain and cryptocurrency and that, blockchain is that technology, that we're using to build on. And, I spend a lot of time just telling people what blockchain is, that this is
Mhm.
just a digital ledger instead
That's
of
right.
your paper ledger where you're recording transactions. All this is a digital ledger that can't be hacked, it can't be changed. Whenever you have human components to stuff, you've got fraud and all kinds of other stuff. This eliminates a
That's
lot of
right.
the craziness that we saw in 2008 and people adding money to other people's balance sheets and some of the other I won't go down all of those different deals, but it eliminates a lot of the issues that we see and it really it streamlines things and makes it more convenient.
Right. Well,
Oh,
I love that. I think the understanding for folks as education is rolled out, the tracking the processes and that it's immutable. Once information is there, it's there is sort of aha moments for folks when you're learning about the difference between crypto and blockchain. Like, how does that apply to all industries, not just real estate? How that is going to change the evolution of every transaction that is done here going forward.
Great.
So
Yeah, great. I mean,
very,
you just saw that
very
article, and I'm sure you just saw it. I don't know if it was last week, but they just found the feds just found 3.6 billion, whatever it was, $1 trillion, right, of Bitcoin that was moved, right, or relocated. And I mean, it's all there on the blockchain. I don't know
right,
how people think that they're not going to find it. Like,
right.
how do you think that they're not going to be? I
Mhm.
don't know, but I thought that was really a great find and a great,
Yeah,
really.
and I think it wasn't it I read the article. I glanced through the article and I think it wasn't it part of like the Silk Road or,
Yeah,
something along those lines. I think the United States is one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin right now or something,
yeah,
especially
yeah, I
everything
would
that they
think.
confiscated and it's kind
Right.
of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, all right, it's fascinating. All the things that have been going on in the crypto space is just it's been crazy. This last like 6 months has been nuts. And so okay, so let's back it up and go back because I could sit here and spiral down about 8,000 different, crypto rabbit holes, and I'm
Yeah,
trying to be so good
we're
and not
trying to
take
be
over this
concise. We're not.
conversation.
We're not. Okay.
I'm
I'm our
trying to
timekeeper. I'm going to keep us on track.
Yes.
Oh, and Robin is so good at that. And so, well, okay, so let me ask you this. I know that educational piece is difficult. Do you see any other barriers or any other challenges that you're facing in that, blockchain real estate, as we're marrying those together, are you seeing anything else that's difficult or that y'all are struggling with?
I think I really, really think it's just education because once we get there and they understand what this is, right, and that it's very traditional in a lot of ways, and the SEC, especially with security tokens, right, what we're doing with asset-backed, real estate-backed um, security tokens, that's, you know, they once they understand that, I think that they're just like, oh, and you could see the light bulb come on. They're just like, oh, okay, I get it. And then they start thinking how they can implement this, right? Once they understand, they're like, oh, now how else can we do this? Where can we do this?
Well, let me ask you this. So, say I'm buying, a piece of real estate property. What are the advantages of tokenizing an asset? Like, why would I even want to do that?
Mhm.
So in terms of from the owner perspective,
Mhm.
right? The owner perspective, I mean, there's I think we're going to see a lot more traction just in asset management, just from that perspective. Of course you have the opportunity to raise capital, and we can still do that traditionally through, Reg A, Reg D, Reg CF, whatever that might be, right? Adding the tokenization component on it, I think gives owners a competitive edge with their investors because then they have the option of liquidity, and that is a very big deal, right? I mean, as we always talk about that, right? Why am I going to go with an investment that is going to tie my money up for 8 to 10 years or whatever that is when if I want to move my money next year, I should be able to do that, right? As an investor, I should be able to do what I want with my money. And this is solving for that issue. I think the other, the other things is what, being able to manage the asset and being able to manage, automate the processes of distributions, right? How I'm going to pay my dividends. I'm going to, maybe I have international investors. That's a big deal. That's a hassle, right? Trying to go through all these different channels and being able to do this with tokenization is very quick and easy. It solves a lot for that problem. Distribution of K1s, right? Your tax, being able to manage communication with your investors, having everything in one place. I mean, there's so many advantages just from that perspective. And then you add the layer of being able to raise capital and giving these investors this massive advantage is just a whole nother, just a whole nother win, I think, for the category. I just see it as a huge benefit to the
Yeah,
industry.
absolutely. Well, you brought up liquidity, which, that is one of the probably number one things that people talk about with, tokenization. And I get really excited about that. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword just because, being able to access that liquidity, one of the great things about real estate is, equity happens, you're forced to stay in that asset. But there are times when, other offers present themselves, or maybe you had an emergency come up and you need to liquidate a small portion of that. So being able to access those funds that you've tied into these long-term, investments, that's a really big deal. Say you're getting divorced, and that solves a lot of those kinds of problems as well. So, and I definitely think that being able to tap into that liquidity is amazing. And the other thing that drives me crazy too is why does the government get to dictate what people do with their money and where they
And they
invest
should
it?
not. And they
I
should.
mean, why does the government have to say, okay, Courtney, you've reached this threshold or you haven't reached this threshold? So, you know what? Robin gets to invest in Laura's apartments, but Courtney, we don't think you're quite there just yet. Maybe you're just not quite as smart as Robin is. So we're not going to let you do that. But Robin, you go right ahead. I just, that drives me crazy. Like, why do they get to dictate that? So, I get really excited about the fact that obviously when you're tokenizing something, you still have to follow the same, regulations. You're still governed by the SEC. You haven't eliminated, you're not circumventing any of these things that, capital raisers do. But after a certain time frame, being tokenized allows you to open that up to non-accredited investors. You get to open it up to everybody. And now the asset has had some time to prove, to show what it can do. And, other people can trade in and out of it. So I kind of visualize this, Amazon marketplace of assets, that's, because tokens are like shares, like stocks of a company. So, people just trading in and out of these, assets and, moving their money around. And it's exciting. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah, and I would add to that and just say that, we're really amped on Reg A, right? This whole idea of using Reg A in raising capital is changing. It's truly democratizing one, right? Truly
So when you
democratizing.
say a Reg A, what is a Reg A?
So regulation is right. So an exemption under the SEC, when you're talking about being able to raise capital, you would do that under a Reg D to stay compliant, a Reg A, a Reg CF. They all have limitations. They all have their particular guidelines.
So what are the basic guidelines for like a Reg A?
So when we talk about what's happening now, we've seen a lot of this with a Reg D, right? A lot of these tokenization projects they're raising capital under a Reg D, right? Which is traditionally the easiest, so to speak, right? Quote unquote, way to go about it. So under a Reg D, you have, like you were mentioning, you have a 1-year lockup, right? Depending on many other things. And this is very high level, right?
Yeah.
Your lockup, you're limited to 2,000 accredited investors, right? Accredited investors are, they meet certain criteria, and that obviously, just that alone, right? When you think about going to the market with a real estate deal and competing or trying to to find investment, right? And you're competing for investors, and you're going to go to accredited investors. Accredited investors, they can have any deal they want. They can go to any deal and they can invest in whatever deal they want, right? So being able to offer the option of liquidity is going to give the owner a competitive advantage when competing for that investor, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at Reg A, right under Regulation A, and you have the option to go to any US investor, right? It's over the age of 18, any foreign investor that's over the age of 18. There's no cap on the number of investors you can have, right? You can provide this option of liquidity to them as well, and you can still attract accredited investors, right? It's almost more beneficial for the accredited investor to have access to those that have raised under this Reg A, because then they have a even broader pool of investors to go to on the secondary market, right? So if I come in with $1 million as an accredited investor, and then I want to dilute or exit a portion of my investment, and I just want to go and take out, I don't know, $200,000, I'm not limited to other accredited investors, right? Which from what I understand is like 6 to 8% of the entire investor pool. So when you open that up to, if you can qualify for this Reg A and your project qualify for it, it's a big advantage. I'm so amped on it. And I think that it just gives, I don't know, there's just so many more benefits. There is a cap of 75 million, that you can raise in 12 months, but you can combine that, right? With a Reg D, you can combine that and go after both accredited investors and non-accredited investors and raise, however you want. So we can get really, really creative. I find it fascinating and exciting and challenging all at the same time. So, and that's really high level, and I'm not, I'm not an SEC attorney, so I would strongly recommend.
The disclaimer's there.
Disclaimers, right? Just go work with an SEC attorney. We have those contacts.
Yes.
But there's a lot of, and it really, like, Courtney, it's so specific to the goal of the owner and their project, right? What is the ultimate goal, and what is their project? What could they qualify for? So, yep.
Very, very interesting,
right? Interesting stuff.
So let's switch to a little bit maybe about your passion project, if we can talk about that a little bit with child trafficking and how you got involved in that. Against child trafficking, let me make sure I'm very clear. An advocate against, not
right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I was, it was kind of around the same time, and I don't know how I came across this movie. It was called Operation Toussaint, and I would recommend it for everyone, right?
Operation?
Yep, Operation Toussaint.
Okay.
Operation Toussaint. Okay.
Yep. Toussaint. And the organization, they're a nonprofit called Operation Underground Railroad, and they support law enforcement in their efforts to end child trafficking. And watching that movie changed my life, really, my perspective of what was happening, and just how incredibly tragic and immense this problem is, right? According to them and statistics, there's 2 million children a year that are being trafficked for sex around the world, right? And if you think about that number and you ask yourself, like, where is that coming from? Like, who is the demand? Like, what kind of person or people, like, who are they that are fueling that industry, right? And so I learned a lot about what was happening in that space. I co-founded a coalition called No More Johns. It is it's a coalition that we basically are educating on and targeting the buyers, right? The Johns, the buyers that are fueling the industry, because that's really where it starts, right? If there was no demand, there would be no child sex trafficking, right? And that's really where it starts. And so No More Johns is we have a mission to educate 1,000,001 parents, right, moms and dads, on what happens and what is happening in how their children are being exposed to this potential problem, right? This really awful thing, and how the idea of the safest place for my child is, in our home, in their room, by themselves, with the door shut, and that's the safest place. I know where they are, I know what they're doing, but what they don't realize is that that child has an iPad, or they have an iPhone, or they have their computer, and they're accessing social media, and that is the number one place where hundreds of thousands of predators are lurking every single day and targeting these children. And it is the most unsafe place for them to be, right? Is online. So I could talk about this all day, and I'm sorry to go on and on, but those
No,
are
I think
You
I
know,
think it's
things.
important. It's
Yeah.
so important.
And let me just tack on to that, because a lot of parents don't realize, my husband is a police officer, and like, my children are not allowed to have Snapchat and all of these other social medias. They're just not. The things that my husband has dealt with through social media and some of these children gives me nightmares. And I just wanted to add in that these social media platforms protect these people in a way that's so disgusting and frustrating. We can have, or he will have something that issue a warrant, and they will fight that warrant. They'll be like, oh, missed a comma here, we're denying your warrant. I mean, it is the way that they protect these predators on these social media platforms is disgusting, and that has been what has been able to help me stand my ground in not allowing my kids to have social media.
Yeah, and good for you, because that is really, and parents just don't, and it's not that they, um, you know, they just don't know. They don't
Right.
realize what a hunting ground that is, right? For these predators. They just go in there, and it's like, you know, open season on these children, and they are grooming them, and they're becoming their friends, and they're
Right.
making them believe that they're someone that they're not, and these kids don't know better, and the next thing you know, they're out on the street, and they meet them and they're gone, right? So it's really it's significant. It's something really important that we need to educate, and that's what we're working on. No More
Yeah.
Johns, nomorejahns.com. We just launched our website. We're just in the very, very, very beginning. I think next year will be the big push, and we will get this information out there, and hopefully educate a lot of parents, and save a
Oh,
lot of
I
kids.
love that.
I do
We'll have
too.
to
I do
chat about that
too.
later. Maybe we can
Yeah,
collaborate on that and do
I love it.
something. I
Mhm.
would love to support you and, help raise awareness and help share that. So we'll chat about that more later.
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that. But it's so powerful. I think what we have to keep in mind as businesswomen is we get involved in so many different projects and lines of business, but it's so important to give back and really be passionate and remember that we've been given so much and to make a difference. And
Well,
I
we're trying to
love
make this
for
world better for
educating. Yeah,
everybody. We
yes.
really want to make the world better for everybody. And, I started,
Absolutely.
and it's all baby steps and little contributions, but everything we can do matters.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Well, it has really been our pleasure to visit with you. You've just given us some little tips of the iceberg highlights about you, about how you got involved in this business and sort of where you're, I mean, not sort of, where you are, where
It's
you have
like a boss mom getting
elevated
in
things.
and
I
out and
know,
doing
I
all the
know.
things.
So
And
appreciate
then
it.
this whole other, No More Johns is, I mean, that's huge in and of itself, but you're an amazing businesswoman. I'm so excited to watch you grow this coming year in all areas and learn from you. You've really inspired me. So
Thank you.
Yeah,
just
I just love that you've done so many things. You keep growing. Took the time to get educated and took action on something that you believed in, that you knew was going to be disruptive and an important space. So Robin and I are always talking about people need to, learn and take action. So I just love that you're out there doing it.
Thank you. And thank you for everything you're doing for the space, right? Supporting and educating and having this amazing platform, which I absolutely love. And the ladies kicking assets, I think that is brilliant. And I just so appreciate being here and knowing you both and being part of your journey as well.
It's a pleasure. Well, thank you.
Well, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so on our website, height0realestate.com. Height Zero is, as you know, right, but it's really interesting. Courtney and I kind of tell the story. Height Zero is the first block in a blockchain is the Genesis block, and the Genesis block has a block height of 0. So it's the foundation, right? It's kind of the foundation on which the blockchain is built. And at height 0, I thought it correlated really well to real estate, because the foundation of real estate is, everything centers around that, and the success centers around that. So that's where that came from. And that's where we got our name. So height0realestate.com would be the easiest way to reach out and find me. And of course, nomorejahns.com is our our mission-based website. So we're going to change the world.
Fantastic. Love it. Beautiful.
Oh, you just gave me chills. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
And I'll make sure to put everything in our notes too, so people can find it that way as well.
Right.
And so thank you so much for coming and sharing.
Powerful woman. Thank you so much, Laura.